Welcome, everybody, to Morro Bay Society's 72nd annual Christmas bird count. Hey, Judy. I want to say welcome to everybody. This is a test run for us today. We generally have this in the evening. The date for the Christmas bird count is generally different. But this year, we're trying to test. We had the Christmas bird count on a Sunday. And we are trying a day compilation event. So we hope everybody enjoys it that's here. For those people that aren't here, they can see it on Zoom, and I suspect there's going to be a recording of it and they'll be able to watch it later. But thank you all for showing up for today. I also need to say thank you for doing the bird count. For those of you that were able to participate in the bird count, we obviously can't do it without you. So thanks for stepping into that space and going out. Most people were out for at least 4 to 12 hours, maybe more. So thank you all for doing that as well. So just a little bit about Morro Bay Society. We are very active. And this is a board that I'm on a lot of different boards for NGOs. This one takes a lot of work. And because of that, I just wanted to recognize our board members. So if you're a board member, if you could stand up that way, I won't miss anybody. Yes, and I'm here to tell you, it's daily work that they all do. So I appreciate everything that you do very much. We also have our employee here. Tori, I think everybody probably knows Tori. And then we have some of our fellows. So how many do we have here? Two fellows? Stand up. We have a total of 10 fellows this year, nine fellows this year, which is a lot. But they're helping us do a lot of outreach, a lot of the education programs, and some of the other work that we do. So thank you both for coming today and being part of the count and helping Morro Bay Society be what we are. So let's see. Today we generally announce the Libby Agron Scholarship awardees. And so I'm going to turn this over to Marie to tell you a little bit about who they are and why they are.
Hi everyone. We are trying very, very hard to reach people who don't know that they're birders yet. And a lot of them are young people at places like Cuesta College, where they might discover their love for nature, but they haven't had the opportunity to actually go out and do things in the field. Through the generous support of Libby Agron, we've been supporting 1 or 2 students at Cuesta College each year. Usually these are students who stand out because they take their first biology classes and they're hooked. They get involved in projects like the eelgrass project in Morro Bay. They're very, very interesting people, exciting people who are working very, very, very hard, a lot harder than I ever did when I was that age. So this year we have 2 very deserving students who will receive our award of $1,000 each. That they get to spend whichever way they see fit. That's a very important part of this. This is not supposed to offset. It will probably offset college costs, but it doesn't come with any strings attached. And so these are students that were selected. The first one is Savannah Gardner. She's in her 3rd year at Cuesta. She says about herself that she got hooked by taking field courses. She has taken pretty much every field course there is at Cuesta College. And so she's been Death Valley, at Baja class in the estuaries, the Eastern Sierras. She's really interested in birding. She's a birder herself. She's hoping to study ornithology. She's about to transfer to UC Santa Cruz. So she's a very interesting person, and I think fits exactly into the type of people we want to support and help become lifelong birders. The other student is equally amazing. Her name is Laura Miller. She is involved in our eelgrass projects. She works with Professor Silvio Favoretto. She's doing tons and tons of DNA samplings at the moment. She works on a project where they're trying to find to look at the genetic variability of the eelgrass pathogen, and I have to read that name because I do not remember it. Labyrinthia. So I cannot even write my own right. It is a pathogen that is responsible for eelgrass disease. We have seen. Sorry.
Stand the scientific name you said.
I can't. It is a pathogen that kills eelgrass. Let's leave it at that. And there's a lot of genetic variability, and she's using a lot of fancy tools, DNA sequencing, to look at this genetic variability. So she spends a lot of hours in the lab that she doesn't have to. She's doing this because she's really into this. And she has gained a reputation for being outstanding in her passion for the environment and being an outstanding student as well. So hopefully both of those we will meet in person, or at least that's the plan, in April at our members meetings, is that right? But this is where we announce the two students who got this award. So I'm very excited about them. And I think that Savannah might be on Zoom, or at least she's trying to be on Zoom. I know that she has to work. I'm not quite sure about Laura yet. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so along the line of thanking people, Jay, thank you so much for organizing all of this and so much more. And thank you to all of the area leaders that led us around day and night to try and get the best count that we could. For a change, we had great weather. It wasn't terribly windy. It wasn't raining. The sun was out. It was a perfect day, really. It wasn't too cold. So thank you all for making that happen. And then finally, it's the end of the year. People have to do some drawdowns on their accounts. Please don't forget about Morro Coast Audubon, because we are doing a lot of things for our community. It's not just about birds, but it's about habitat and water, and we're trying to really make a difference in our county. So please don't forget us. Carolina?
Did you ever want to say?
No.
Oh. I was wondering if people who did the bird count yesterday would raise their hand.
So everybody that did the bird count, if you could raise your hand.
Wow.
So
You must be excited to hear what everybody else found, right?
we are very excited to hear what everybody else found, which is a great segue. Jay, here you go.
Thank you, Nancy. I hope I'm not going to stand in your way. I have to be over here so I can actually be on a camera. Oh my good. Thank you all for coming, and thank the folks that set up the wonderful thing here. We got Wendy, and who else was part of the setup? We have Marie for sure. And yeah, it's great to be here in person. It's a little bit more difficult. It's not quite the interactive meeting like we would have if it were a post count the night of kind of a thing, but it works. I'm glad we could all be together here. This is my 8th year of being the compiler. And Tom Edel, who's really the grandfather of birding for San Luis County, is he's the one that has done it for years and years and years, but he stepped down and I took over. So glad to be here. And this is our 72nd local bird count for Morro Coast Audubon, and it's the 125th bird count for Audubon. And I think we might have had about 125 people participate in our count. So that's a good number. It's glad we could get so many people together. And I want to thank Joanne Austin in particular, because she does such a great job organizing all of the web interface for the count and helping me out a lot. And I need a lot of help. So she takes care of all that end of things. And once we get people situated in sectors, then we can go from there. And but it's not just me. We have Eric as one of our area leaders, Eric Weir. Steve McMasters is here, and Steve Tillman is not here, but he was our other area leader. So it's really a group effort, obviously, with so many people. Yeah, as Nancy said, we were fortunate to have good weather last year. It was kind of difficult with all the strong winds and rain and everything, and it kind of showed up in the numbers of birds species that we found. That was below normal, but I think we did well this year, and we'll find out. This is the big drama, the big reveal, right? The compilation. So yeah, there's about in California, there are about 140 similar count circles that are done each year, and that was quite a bit. And then throughout the US, even down into Central America, Mexico, Canada, altogether, there's about 2,600 bird counts that are done in 15-mile diameter circles. So yeah, it's a big effort. And this long-term nature of the project being going on for so long, it's a real bonus for seeing how trends change from year to year, right? And over long periods of time. And that's the real value. Of course, we have eBird, which has thousands and thousands of lists submitted daily, just about. But the Audubon Christmas count with this long-term emphasis is very valuable for scientific information. Plus, it's a great way for people to get together and share birding, right? Which is one of the main things too. So let's see. Yeah, we go out, and not everybody finds rare birds. And it's great if you do, but just you're out there helping to be part of the count and getting our total numbers of birds, everything, all the data are important, even if you didn't, like find a rare warbler or anything like that. But we did find a few things, and we'll get to that as we kind of count down the list. So these are a couple of bird counters here that they don't look like they were bird counters, but these are the listers. They had a little YouTube video that came out this year that was pretty fun. So we're featuring them on our title slide. All right, so let's go on. Yeah, so we had about 120. Speaking of 120, it seems like a number that's floating around a lot, but we had about 120 eBird lists submitted so far from yesterday, but among all of the parties that were out there counting. So this is a slide from last year, but I just put this up to show the extent of the coverage here. And each of those little markers represents a list that was submitted. And you can see it extends all the way from Morro Bay and up into West Cuesta Ridge up there, and down along the creek, San Luis Creek there. That's kind of one of the boundaries of our count circle. But of course, there's a big area in there in the Irish Hills, which is pretty remote, and that doesn't get covered very well at all. Actually, we have one person that goes up there, Bill Haas, in the dark listening for owls. So we have good coverage overall, and we have a great variety of habitats, which really lends a lot to the diversity of birds that we see, right? So it takes a combination of things. And the weather too, as we mentioned. So nobody can take credit for the weather, but so Eric, you want to take credit for the weather? Okay. Eric really went all out on the weather this year. So let's see. Okay, so we can get to the checklist. What I'm going to do here, let's see if this works. We have a list of the bird species, and this follows the field checklist, the paper field checklist, that if anybody goes out with the trifold list, this is the same kind of order of birds. Most people actually now are using the eBird mobile app, which it makes it easier at the end to compile for me and others the data where you can create this trip list like you just saw. And it kind of automatically compiles all these eBird lists, but we still integrate the paper checklists, and we have to review all the lists for accuracy and so forth. So It's a process, but, let's see here, I can get rid of this, did I X this out here? Okay, anyway, so, are we ready to count down? All right, let's get the show on the road. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a mark, let's see, maybe just an X. And we saw snow geese. There was 3 on the estuary, and there was at least 1 at Laguna Lake, so we're gonna do that and see how this goes. Hey, see the number changed to 2. It started at 1 because we have 800 brant, that was an estimate of the number of brant, and so that was an automatic there. But let's go down the list here. Ross's goose. We had an interesting observation of a Ross's goose just in time for the count at Laguna Lake. And there was some debate over whether it was a hybrid, but I think at this point we've agreed that it's a good solid Ross's full species vet. So that's always nice to get that. And greater white-fronted, I think that was absent on the count this year. We didn't get any reports in December that I was aware of, but often we pick up the greater white-fronted goose, but not this year. Brand, as I said, we have an estimate here, and usually John Roser goes out and he does a directed count a couple of days before count day, specifically for brand. He's a brand researcher, and it's interesting because he came up with about 850 the day before hunting season, and then he went back like earlier in the week and could only find about 400, and some of them go out into the ocean to avoid the hunters in the bay. So they've kind of got this pattern going where they move offshore or into the ocean during the day, and then in the evening they'll come back into the bay and feed and so forth. I think that'd be pretty interrupting for those, but anyway, the number that we settled on, and we had an estimate count yesterday of about 800, and that's about what we've been seeing for the last few years. It was bottomed out in like 2015, 2016, down around just a few hundred, but it's kind of slowly climbed. So anyway, that's our count for this year, about 800. And we did pick up a cackling goose out at a pond just north of Cuesta. So that was a nice addition. I think Stephanie's party got that one. Canada geese. Yes. Oops. Wood duck. I don't think there was a wood duck. I didn't see it on our preliminary look at the accounts. So sometimes we pick them up in some of the smaller ponds behind Cal Poly and that sort of thing. But I don't think we got wood duck. Blue-winged teal, yes, of course. And cinnamon, very closely related. Sometimes you see hybrid cinnamon, blue-wing, cool bird. Lots of northern shovelers. And gadwall, yes. Eurasian widgeon. We did pick up Ben and Marcella picked up a Eurasian widgeon out in off of the Elfin Forest Overlook, and picked through hundreds and hundreds of American widgeons to find Eurasian. And here's a photo of one off to the side here, and I highlighted the birds. These are just not in any particular order, the birds or anything. That's just kind of something to look at rather than a list. But the bird that is featured in the photograph is also highlighted off to the side there, so you can tell what those are. We usually get a few Eurasian widgeons every year, but they're pretty rare otherwise. So say yes, go on that. And American widgeon, ton of those. In fact, there were some what we thought were hybrid American Eurasian widgeon out there as well, which they're kind of messier than the nice, clean appearance of the full species of the Eurasian. So if we do get hybrids, unfortunately, we can't necessarily count, we can't count them as a species on the count. They're interesting, but they don't count on the tally as a full species, so that's the rules. We've got to go by the rules, right? So, mallard, of course. Pintail, yes. And if there's anything, Eric, Steve, or anybody that has a question or something about the species as we go through them, we're open to, like, you know, answering questions as we go along. So pretty informal, right? Green-winged teal, yes. Canvasback, gorgeous bird. And we had, I think, Dean's group out at Camp San Luis, they had 21 of them on one pond, which is nice because we don't often see them in numbers at all. Cool duck. So yes, canvasback and ringneck duck. Yep. X. Greater Scott. We had a few. Oops. We had a few Greater Scott, and those are often difficult. Well, they are difficult to tell from the lesser Scott. Greater, the ER is the part that kind of trips people up because it's like, let's see, is that head a little rounder than the lesser Scott? I think so. And so it's often a point of debate. But we had some expert people identifying them and they were Greater Scott. So we'll go with that. And there's the lesser, hundreds and hundreds of lesser out there. And then if it's kind of a tweener, we'll often use this combination category. This is greater, lesser, and they can be those on the list, but most 99% are lesser Scott that we see in the bay here. Other places, the graders are better, but are more abundant. And let's see, surf scoters. So if you get out of the bay and we go across the sand spit out onto the open ocean, got surf scoters, and there were a lot of those out there. There were estimates of, well, we had maybe 1,000 or more in our count, but there were some estimates earlier on of a couple thousand surf scoters out there. They're pretty amazing birds. Okay, let's put an X there, and let's see, can we kind of move, oops, how do we move the screen up and down a little bit here? Oh, okay, I can use the little 2-finger retain. All right, thank you. Technical advice. Let's see, so we're at, where are we at here? Scoters.
Just in case.
Oh, thanks. And Marie, help. Sorry, technical difficulties. Just want to get so we're pointed there.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
Yeah.
that
That's good.
you got.
Okay, so the other one was white-winged scoter, and yes, the weather was so nice yesterday, and we planned to have a boat go out if the conditions were good, and they were good. And Rick Hernandez, it was nice enough to offer his small boat, and we had 2 other observers, Reef and Roger H, went out, and they were able to go offshore to the margin of the circle out there, which we often don't cover except from a sea watch, which was done by Tom. He can see a long way out there, but there's just something about being out on the edge of the circle, which is about 2 miles offshore, where we can get into that habitat where we can see the nearshore, some of the nearshore pelagic species. But yesterday was like one of the first times we were able to actually do that. So that was a nice bonus. And we'll see some of the species that were picked up offshore at the same time. Okay, so white-winged scoter, we're up to 20. I guess that's a lot. Let's see here, I'll move that thing out of the way. Bufflehead, yep. Bufflehead are cool too, because they spend, it's like the spotted sandpipers. They live up in the mountains and breed in the mountains in the summertime. And then in the winter, they come down to the coast. It's a great thing. So I've been like hiking up in the Sierras where you see a lake up in the high Sierras. There's bufflehead on the lake, which is cool. So they've got it down, pretty birds. Common goldeneye. Yes, we had a few of those. Not always seen. And hooded mergansers. Here's a photo of one off to the side, and boy, beautiful birds. And there are a few out in the bay, males and females. The females aren't quite as showy, it's typical, but the males are certainly like incredibly beautiful. So hooded merganser, yes. Common merganser, no, that's a little bit more of a freshwatery kind of thing, and we don't often pick those up on the count. So red-breasted for sure in the bay. And a lot of ruddy ducks. Okay, working our way down here. Mountain quail. Now we did have a counting party up on the ridge, up in the Cuesta Ridge, which is usually where we're going to find, well, it's the only place in the circle where we're going to find mountain quail. But this time of year, you know, they're not calling much because it's before their breeding season. And so like in the spring, you can hear them if you go up to Cerro Alto and those areas, you can hear them doing the queerk kind of a call. But they weren't able to get one or any of them up on the ridge this time of year. They or pick them out. They're up there, but they can be very secretive. So we hope for the best, but we didn't pick up any yet this year from my, or not yet, but on the count. So that's one misser. That's all right. Lots of state bird, California quail out there for sure. And wild turkey. Yep. Yeah, I was doing counting on a ranch property over off Los Osos Valley Road yesterday. And among the oaks, you know, it was a nice calm warm day, and then as you heard this kind of and I go, yes, wild turkeys. And some people don't like them, which is understandable because they can be aggressive. I got chased by one last spring. Big Tom guarding the young ones. And it was like I just came around the trail, and all of a sudden it saw me and it just like charged at me. I'm like, whoa, go away. Yeah. Pied-billed grebes, yes. Get into the grebes here. Horned grebes, yeah. Eared grebes are a little bit more abundant than the horns. And let's see, westerns. I don't know whether anybody saw Clark's grebe. I haven't been able to get through all the lists. Did anybody see one? Oh, okay. Do you know who the observers were? Oh, maybe it was the group that did Point Bouchon group, maybe. Oh, okay, perfect. Good. I didn't see that list. So we're still kind of this is a preliminary compilation here, right? We're getting a good idea of what was out there, but things are going to change afterwards when we review some of the identifications and go over the lists, that sort of thing. So. Yes. Oh, that's count week. Okay. Oh, I had one. I had a pair of them at Spooner's Cove on count week. Yeah, but not. Oh, it's me. I didn't know anybody got on count day. That's the way it goes. You know, it's don't have to stress about that. So, so Clark's are out there, but we didn't pick them up on the count. So that's all right. And rock pigeons, yes. Bandtail, oops. Bandtail pigeons, yes. Eurasian collar dove, yes. Mourning dove, yes. Roadrunner? I didn't hear of a roadrunner this year. They're kind of hit and miss. I mean, they kind of find you if you go in the right habitat. Sometimes there's one up in the saddle between Bishop or up at Cerro San Luis, up behind Madonna there. But I didn't hear of any roadrunners. So, oh well, that's another one that we missing in action. We did get some white-throated swifts. I think Susie, you had some up on Bishop Peak there. Great. That's nice to see those this time of year, especially. So white-throated swifts and ton of Anna's hummingbirds. Now we're going to be putting, when we compile, we put numbers with all these, obviously. So we'll be able to quantify the relative abundance of the different species we saw. And Allen's rufus, so that's one of those combination categories where we can't really firmly identify whether it's a rufus or an Allen's unless you get good looks at the tail feathers. But for the most part, at this time of year, almost all the types, and you can see the photograph of it up there, are considered Allen's hummingbirds. In Southern California, there's a race of the hummingbirds that's a sedentary race, and they stay there year round. But the rufous migrate through, and we see them periodically in the spring and fall. So we call Allen's rufus, but we know it was one or the other of those. So we can count it on our count. There you go. Let's see. Okay, we got some other things going on the screen here, but. Yeah. Okay, and so here we are, Virginia rails, and here's a picture of a Virginia rail. They're very vocal. Sometimes that's the only thing. Usually, it's the only time you know they're there if they're calling, right? The Virginia rails. Same with Sora, very vocal. And we did get Sora. They have that kind of a laughing call or song, whatever it is. Okay. Oops. Coot, American coot. Yep. And American avocet, yes, there were some of those. Those have kind of declined in numbers as well. So we only get a handful of them nowadays, but they used to be more abundant in the bay. And black oyster catcher, everybody loves black oyster catchers. It looks like they're smoking a carrot. That's like the first identification characteristic. You know, if you see
never occurred to me.
if you see a bird that's smoking a carrot, then it's probably an oyster catcher, black oyster catcher. Now in South America, I understand, I haven't seen them there. There's a sister species called the blackish oyster catcher, and it looks almost identical to the black oyster catcher, but they're separated by the tropical zone there. So it's interesting. Black-bellied plovers, yes, of course. And out on the sand spit, we have snowy plovers. Those we're seeing. Semi-palmated plovers. Plovers or plovers? Who's a plover lover? And then there's a plover people. I just say plover, you know, whatever. Plover. Tomato. Killdeer, yes. And now I highlighted Hudsonian wimbrel because, and then we have a picture of one down here because it's just the wimbrel, but it was separated this year into two species. But there's a Eurasian species now, and then North American one is now it's referred to as the Hudsonian wimbrel. So
So it's no longer just.
it's no longer just wimbrel, just plain wimbrel. It's the Hudsonian wimbrel. Yeah, so just a little factoid. You know, taxonomy in the species, the American worldwide birds changes depending on kind of like research that's done and the information that's available. And periodically they'll split species into two different ones, or they'll lump the ones that had been considered two species and lump those into one. And it's a kind of an ongoing thing, but that's just kind of the nature of taxonomy in general, whether it's birds or fish or lizards or anything else. It's always kind of changing a little bit, and it can be a little bit oops, can't do that. We'll let people in. I'm surprised people are watching. It's such a nice afternoon. You know, like, glad you guys are here, of course, but anyway, where are we? Long-billed curlew, yep. Marbled godwit. There's a Hudsonian godwit too, not to be confused with the Hudsonian wimbrel now. So I have seen Hudsonian godwit. Ruddy turnstone. No, we didn't get a ruddy turnstone. They move through. They're usually hear like during migration, a few of them, but I don't think we got one this time around. We did get black turnstone. Hey, 50, we're at 50. All right, that's good. Red knots are kind of obscure looking unless you are keying in on them. Grayish, winter type gray shorebird. And their breeding plumage, they're a lot showier and easier to identify, but Kevin Zimmer picked a few of them up from the Marina Boardwalk during his count. So red knots. And surfbirds. I don't think anybody hear of surfbirds being seen out on the breakwaters or anything. Like I said, we had the boat that went out and they did check the breakwaters as they went by offshore, but they didn't pick up any surfbirds. Sometimes up in Cayucas, we'll see them at the North Point Natural Area there, but didn't see any on our account this time around. Okay, sanderlings, yes. And Dunlin, I wasn't sure about Dunlin, but yeah, I was talking with Kevin this morning. He said they definitely picked up some Dunlin. Because of the tide yesterday too, it wasn't like a high tide. It was like kind of a moderate high tide. And the high tides that we get during some months just push all the shorebirds up onto the edge, the shoreline, like around the boardwalk, the State Park Marina Boardwalk there. There'll be just thousands of shorebirds around. It's a lot easier to count them and see them up close, but when the tide's down, they move offshore. So that was kind of the case yesterday with the tides, but we were still able to get looks and identify some of these species. So Lee sandpiper, of course, western, yes. And for all of those flocks of little shorebirds that are flying by, peep spas is a category. And this is just like on the species list. So if you're out in the field and you can't identify a shorebird to down to the species, often would just put peep spa, like 100 peep spa or 200 peep spa. So it's not going to count towards our final tally on the list here, but that's the category there. So
Count towards the numbers.
yes, absolutely. Yeah. So some of the species lists probably had peep spa on them, but I'm not marking it down here because it's not a species that is defined. And Kevin also had both short and long-billed dowitchers, which again, it's one of those greater, lesser, shorter, longer kind of things. But these are you can tell them apart by their call if they do call, and that's really the only way that you can reliably tell the difference between the short-billed and long-billed. So Kevin is one of the sharpest birders around, not just here. So he said, yeah, we had both out there, and I believe him. And if you can't identify it, then you call it a dowitcher spa, SP. So that's kind of like the peep spa. And there were probably some of those in there too, but we're not counting them here. Wilson's snipe. Yes, there were some reports of Wilson's snipe, which are cool looking birds. And spotted sandpiper. Yes, of course. Yeah, wandering tattler. I had this picture on there thinking that we might pick it up, but there was one out of Montana de Oro that I saw on Thursday, I think it was. And we weren't able to re-find it on count day, but they move up and down the shoreline, and it's there's some difficult areas to get a good look at the shoreline. So it might be out there. I might have been there on count day, but we will add that to our count week list, which is also reported to Audubon. And that is 3 days before count day, which would be Thursday, Friday, Saturday in this case, and the 3 days afterwards, today, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Any birds that were seen during those days but didn't appear on or are not part of the count list for the count day, those are still reported, but just as present or absent. They don't quantify them. So it's kind of like the it's kind of like the stepchild of the birds that are, it's count week birds, but it's still part of the database, and Audubon does keep track of that, so. That will be one of the species that we add to our count week list. Greater yellow legs, yep. Willet, just plain willet, not Hudsonian willet or California willet or American willet or anything. Right now, it's just a willet, so we'll go with that. Common mirror, yes, we did see some, I think they had some just from the rock, scoping offshore, but then also the boat that went offshore picked up common mirror. As they did Cassin's auklet and rhinoceros auklet. Yeah, so these aren't birds that we always get. If, say, the visibility looking from shore isn't that great, those kinds of smaller birds might not show up on the count, but we did have them yesterday. So this better weather is a good, you can see how it's helping our species list for the day here, that we had that great weather yesterday. There had been some black-legged kittiwakes seen in like a week or two prior to the count, but there weren't any that were seen yesterday. So it's considered kind of a rare-ish species here, black-legged kittiwake, kind of like a little gull-like bird. Bonaparte's gulls, yes, for sure. And put next there. And Herman's gulls, yes, several hundred of those on the beach. Your gray gull. And short-billed, we did pick up a couple short-billed gulls. There's a picture of one there. And it's always nice to get those. They're pretty handsome little species. Put next there, what we at 67, we're getting bigger. Lots of ringbills, of course, and westerns, which is really the only gull that breeds here in the summertime. So that's our local gull. I was reading something about a little controversy going on in Morro Bay, because at the Harbor Village, or it's the one, I find Bayshore Village, is that the name of it? Yeah. The gulls nest, or they want to nest on the roofs there, and you know how gulls can be kind of noisy and messy and that sort of thing. So they have a little hazing program thing going on, and have for the last few years. And so they were like reconsidering that, and they did re-up it, but it's like gulls are going to be gulls, so. But if I lived there, I'd probably say, yeah, go nest somewhere else. But anyway, western gulls and Californias, of course. I didn't see a report of a herring gulls. Did anybody hear anything about herring gulls being sighted at all? Okay, I think that was another missing in action, as was the Iceland or Thayer's gull. These are both kind of uncommon, and if we see them, great. If not, then that's just the way that goes. Glaucous wing, there's usually a few of those around too, and I think we did pick up glaucous wing. I think I forget who had that, but it was maybe the offshore boat did. Caspian tern, yes. If you hear a raucous call over the bay, it's usually a Caspian tern with a juvenile following the adult, begging food. They're very, very, very vocal. Okay, where are we here? Forsters, yes, and Royal, yes. This time of year especially. All right, on to the loons. Okay, red-throated loon, yes. And the Pacific loon, I think we saw those for sure. And of course, common loon in the bay. We also had a observation of what might have been an Arctic loon, which looks very similar to the Pacific loon, but it's super rare, and it's here, and it's mostly restricted to very northern latitudes. And we have had them here in the county before, but there's some very subtle characteristics about the amount of white on the side. They're slightly larger than a Pacific loon, and we had one of our expert birders had a good candidate for that, the Arctic. And if it were, we're gonna go out, I think Tom went out again this morning to look for it. So if we get some good photographs of that particular bird, we might be able to add Arctic loon to our account, which would be spectacular. Many years ago, there was one that was up in San Simeon during the bird festival. And so that was a big draw to get the Arctic loon down here, so. Anyway, we'll keep looking at
There's
it.
nothing of it yesterday at all.
Excuse me, was that Mike?
Were there any photos taken of the Arctic?
Not that I saw, there might have been, but maybe they weren't, they probably weren't definitive enough. If they're on the open ocean and the waves are moving back and forth, some of the characteristics aren't gonna show well, but if they're in a lagoon situation where they're very stable and steady and they can get some photos, then that might be enough to identify it as an Arctic loon. But because it's so rare, you need really definitive information about it to count it, so we'll let that one slip for a while. They got a northern fulmar out there and on the pelagic trip. City shearwaters, not so much now. Of course, in the summertime, 100,000 of them will come in, right? You know, like at Cayucas and Avila, just huge flocks of these city shearwaters. But this time of year, they pretty much moved back down, maybe on their way to New Zealand or somewhere. They have a really long migration. However, Reef did pick up some black minted shearwaters, which is one we don't always get. There's a photo of one right there. And they're more of a nearshore shearwater, and they're not not usually seen, but some years they're we get them. They're a little bit more of a warmer water species. So shearwater spa. All right, let's go down through the cormorants, brants, yes, pelagic, yes, double crested. Go out to Montagne d'Aurore, you can see them all together on the same rock. Yeah, and American white pelican. Yes, we have some of those in the bay. I don't know, did you see any in Laguna Lake, the white pelicans? Okay, I don't know if they've been out there. Yeah. Of course, the brown pelicans. Oh, and here's a good one too. Tori and his group, Nick and others, had a American bittern at Laguna Lake yesterday. And that little picture there, they're trying to, that striping on the throat makes them blend in better. They're often motionless and very difficult to see, but you guys picked that out. So that's a really good one for our account. And if there was also least bittern, which is rare, and we'll get to the rare birds at the end of the list. So we'll do just the birds that appear on our printed species list, and then at the end we'll add the birds that are rare. Okay, here we go. Great blue heron, of course, 86. Come on, 100. Come on, 100. Great egret, yes. Snowy egret, yes. Green heron, that was one I think we missed. Did anybody hear? Yeah, it can happen. Often the Cal Poly, we'll see them on the some of the smaller ponds at Cal Poly, but and there's actually a reported one at Sweet Springs last week. But again, that's one of those things that maybe it's just it was hiding, you know, when they were there, or maybe they're not here, you don't know. So, you know, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to add green heron unless we get a list of the last that we haven't looked at yet. So we can't count that right now. Black crown night herons, yes. And moving into the vultures, hawks, and eagles, turkey vultures, of course. Osprey, yes. Osprey are one of those birds that, from our standpoint of being compiling the list, they're always like appear to be overcounted because they go, you know, they fly around the bay, they fly over the land, and everybody that's out counting birds is like, an osprey, I'll put that down the list, of course. And then I wind up with like 13 or 14 ospreys, which there's probably like 3 or 4, you know, but they're just moving around so much, they get overcounted. So that's one of the little bits of compiling magic that goes on the adjustment numbers. So we try and represent, and sometimes like when John Roser is out counting the Brant, he will keep an eye out and kind of get an estimate for the numbers that we would typically expect for osprey. And so white-tailed kite, yes, always a great bird. Golden eagle, yes. And northern harrier, yes. I think, yeah, we've got sharp-shinned, but we've got both sharp-shinned and Coopers are accipiter types, accipiter D. And they can be very similar looking as well. Size is not always the best way to identify them, but if you're not sure whether it's Coopers or sharp-shinned, you just put it down as a sharp-shinned / Coopers, and that's how it goes on the list. Red-shouldered hawk, yes, of course. And the red-tailed hawks. We had, oh, I skipped one. Good. The bald eagle. How could we skip the bald eagle?
That makes sense.
Gosh. There's been a couple of them around and in the bay anyway. Did you guys see any at Laguna? Is gone. MIA. Yeah, yeah. Again, they move around, so. Okay, yeah, but we did get them on the list. And then excuse me, red tail. I was speaking with one of the people that counted in a section over Los Osos, and they saw a pair of red tails on a nest with chicks in the nest yesterday, which is super early, right? And I was like, whoa, I want to check that out myself. So I'm going to go over there in the next couple of days just to see, because that's pretty early. Which we have this kind of a breeding bird census, which is coming up. Maybe you've heard about the Atlas that for California. That's going to be a big project. It's a 5-year project to quantify the breeding birds in the state, and that's going to be kicking off this January. And there's plenty of information about that online.
We're gonna be members of that.
That's right. Yes, that's great. It's awesome. I'm not going to really discuss that. I don't know too much about it, but I do know that it's a big project and it's kicking off in January. It's a 5-year project. So this would be a perfect addition to that breeding bird atlas, because it looks at how the timing of reproduction and how the climate might be affecting that kind of thing. So I'll sign up for it and go over there on January 1st and put red-tailed hawk on there if we see them on the nest. That'd be good information for that. Ferruginous, yes, I believe we got a ferruginous hawk maybe up San Bernardo Creek Road. I saw that on one of the lists. Okay, owls, barn owl, yes, 101. Look, we're there. We're getting more. Come on. Barn owl, yes. Western screech, yes. Yeah, we had some, the Barry and Ginger, they were out there in the dark listening for owls, and thank you for doing that.
That was a little later because of the fog, which helped.
Oh, okay. Late getting out the door, but that's okay. It worked. That's cool. And great horns are calling now. They'll be nesting. Speaking of nesting, pretty soon. So they're all pairing up and talking to each other at night. I don't think we saw northern pygmy owl, but we did get burrowing owl. I got the Turry Road burrowing owl, which can be kind of elusive over there. I went over there multiple times looking for it and didn't see it, and then went in the afternoon and yay, there it was. So we add that to the list. I think that was the one that we saw on the count. There's obviously more around, but add that one. No spotted owl, no long-eared. Tom did get a short-eared owl yesterday afternoon, late afternoon, early evening, and there's a couple of them that are out and around the Morro Bay State Park grasslands out there now, so they're cool to see. Okay, and northern saw-whet, yeah, there were several of them that were reported, for those that were out owling, so that's good to know. Okay, belted kingfisher, yes. Okay, red-breasted sapsucker, yes, oops. Oops, that goes down there, what am I doing? Back up, delete. Oops, no, no, no. Well, that's all right, I can put two X's there, doesn't matter. It means we saw more than one, well, nah, I'll just leave it. Acorn woodpecker. Yes. Nuttalls, okay. And downy and hairy, okay, this here year round. And flickers, I haven't heard any reports of yellow shafted flickers this season. Has anybody heard yellow shafted at all? Yeah, it's not a clean yellow shafted or red shafted intermediate. Yeah, okay. And those are not, those are often what's seen. The bird reviewers are very particular if you identify as a yellow shafted, and if there's any hint that it might have hybridization with the red shafted, then it's not a yellow shafted flicker, right? So they, like in the, I don't know, eastern Colorado, and they do the two populations of the yellow shafted, which is eastern, and the red shafted, which is western. They do overlap, and they both breed in that area. And that's where a lot of the hybrids occur. But in migration in the wintertime, when they disperse, we'll sometimes find hybrids here. But okay, so we wouldn't count that as a separate species anyway. American kestrel.
No, the cellular flickers.
You ever flick it? Hit the flicker.
Get the flicker. Flick the flicker. Thank you. Kestrel. Yep. Merlin. Yes, we had some merlins. Here's a picture of a merlin. Great bird. Unless you're a prey item for it, then it's like terror on wings, right? Peregrine falcon, a few of those. I didn't see prairie falcon on any of the lists, so I was expecting maybe we'd see one of those. They're not uncommon in the wintertime, but if you want to see them, go up to Carrizo. There's a Carrizo count, by the way, and that's on, is it January 5th this year, I think, Sunday? I don't know, but yeah, Russ Namitz runs that one. That's the other count circle in our county. So if you want to see prairie falcons, that's a good place to go. Except Black Phoebe, of course, Say's Phoebe, yes. Cassin's king, oops, did I miss something? Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. And down we go. Okay, Cassin's kingbird, yes. And those have increased quite a bit lately. I think I saw a preliminary total on our trip list, and there were about 80 that were seen. There were not always that many Cassin's kingbirds around. Hutton's vireo, yes. Loggerhead shrike, yes. A few of those. Predatory songbird. These words don't go together. Okay. Stellar's jay, of course. I like jays. It's just a personal thing. Scrub jays, yeah, we'll go with that.
Just that scrub.
Scrub, yeah, okay. Yellow-billed magpie, that's, yes, we did pick up some of those. We get those up mostly in the canyons, like San Bernardo Creek, San Luisito Creek Canyon up there. Of course, if you go over the grade, you'll see them, regularly up in Santa Margarita. But Cal Poly, okay, Scott's, so I want a Cal Poly. Yeah, they're cool, and they are a California specialty. So if you're coming, the black-billed magpie is the one that's very widely distributed, but the yellow-billed is just in California, mainly kind of a Central Valley kind of a woodland type bird. So birders that are coming from out of the area, they want to see the yellow-billed magpie. Yes, that's a tick on their life list. So we'll put a tick on this one here. Lots of crows, some ravens about. They didn't used to be abundant at all, and often were missed on the count. But in recent years, the ravens have become more common on the coastal section here, so. On the list, down to the chickadees, chesapeake chickadees, oak titmouse, yes. And this is funny, horned larks, they're typically, open grassland bird, and we don't see them a lot down here. If you go up to Carrizo, and then you see like giant flocks of them, as you drive along. But here they're not as abundant, but I was surprised, gosh, I didn't see any over Turi Road. And then I looked through a list, I think, oh, well, maybe Dean's group over at Camp San Leos picked it up because they looked through those and looking through, there's horned lark. Yes, and I looked over and it was one horned lark, which is unusual because usually they travel in these enormous flocks. So I'll have to get the story on that. One horned lark, it's like one bush tit. Usually you see more than one, right? Or where there's one, there's another, but we'll put it down. So we got one horned lark. Yay. No tree swallow. Swallows are more of the spring, summer, and so forth. We did get barn swallow though. Did anybody identify a tree swallow over? Sometimes we get them over Laguna, particularly. Barn swallows are the ones that are more likely to stick around.
You skip violet green.
Did we see violet green? Anybody have a violet green? I didn't see one. Yeah, but that's another one that you can, be around this time of year as well. But I didn't see any reports of them on the list, at least that we looked at. So that might change. Speaking of bush tits, here we are. Yes, of course, and wren tits. Ruby crown kinglets, yes. And oh yeah, golden crown kinglet. We did get reports of some golden crown. And this is a year when we're not seeing a lot of those kind of mountain wintering birds, or like the red-breasted nuthatch and pine siskins, those kinds of birds, they just aren't here right now. Maybe it's because the weather's been so mild and they haven't been, get the urge to come down to the coast away from the mountains. But in any case, there were some few golden crown kinglets that were identified, so that's good.
Where do they tend to be seen?
In pines, yeah, and we got one at Black Hill, and Bill Haas had a couple of them up Sea Canyon also, the golden crown kinglets. And
See a pretty good moment, there's the dirt section there.
dirt section of,
Yes, they're in those oaks and pines.
okay. Yeah, but not every year. I mean, there's some years are more than others, and same, it's particularly true of the red-breasted nuthatch. Some years you just hear that meep, 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 everywhere you go. And this year you don't hear that much. So red-breasted were pretty unusual on the count. I was hoping that we'd get some, and we did pick up a couple of them over on Black Hill in Morro Bay, in the pines there. So add that to the list. White-breasted nuthatch, yes, got those. Blue-gray, here's a picture of blue-gray, really handsome bird, really nice. Like those blue-gray gnatcatchers. They're here year-round, but in like the eastern United States, they're migratory, and they're more abundant in like the Northeast, like in the summertime. But then they'll migrate south in the winter, and they come through in great numbers. I've seen them on the East Coast, like you look at a bush and there'll be like 30 blue-gray gnatcatchers. And I'm like, oh, that's not typical, but that's the way it is in certain parts of their range. So we did get a brown creeper too, which was a good addition. Yeah. So we don't always pick brown creeper up unless you go up to Cerro Alto, which is just outside the circle, so it's one of those things. Like Avila is just outside the southern part of the circle. So it'd be nice to be able to look at the lagoon there at Avila, but no, it's not in the circle. And same goes for Cerro Alto. But the way it's situated, we do get a great variety of the coastal species, and the ones that are on the edge there too. So
Where did you open San Simeon already?
San Simeon, yeah, okay. Okay, rock wren, yes. And canyon wren, we did get the one at the rock. Yep. So that's a
Steve Tillman.
Tillman at the rock. Yeah. Yeah. He said someone was there, some other birders that weren't associated with the bird count, the Christmas bird count, but they were there and they were doing playback, like to get the bird singing. And he was going, why was the bird singing so much? He looked around, there's someone like recording, playback recording, or that they have that descending call, and it really sets them off if they're around. So northern house wren used to be just regular house wren. That's northern house wren. Deal with it, Mike. And Pacific wrens, Eric, you got some up, a couple up Coon Creek.
Yeah.
Great.
Islay Creek.
And one up Islay Creek too. Oh, great. Awesome. Okay. We don't always pick those up. We always try and target those and try and stake them out. So Pacific wren. All right. Marsh wren, yes. And of course, Beox wren. Starlings, no shortage of those. California thrasher, yes. Mockingbird, yes. Western bluebird, yes. We always hope for a mountain bluebird down here. But I don't think we saw one on the count. I was trying looking for them. There were some a couple of weeks ago that were reported off Turry Road, but didn't pick those up this time around. So, and again, varied thrush is another one of those kind of mountain birds that some years they're abundant, or not abundant, but they're, down here and common in the right habitat, but I haven't heard of any lately. So varied thrush is one that we missed, and hermit thrush, though, there's quite a few of those. Yeah. American robin, yes. Cedar waxwing, flocks of those. And here's one of our introduced non-native species, the scaly-breasted munia, used to be called the chestnut manakin. You might remember that. It's a Southeast Asia, South Asia bird that it was probably brought here as a cage species. People just like have a canary or something like that. And, they had, munias, but then they let them go or they escape. So down in LA, I think from the West Coast, that was one of the centers of radiation over the last few years. They started there and they kind of worked their way. They really like it around Lagoon Lake. Yeah, they like water. So they like seed feeders. So we definitely have scaly-breasted munia and house sparrows. Yes. American pipits. Yeah, there's flocks of those around. Always hoping for a red-throated pipit, but takes careful observation, and they're probably not around right now. House finch, yes, of course. Purple finch, yes. Pine siskin, that's another one of those I was talking about. I don't think we had any pine siskins. Barry and Ginger, I think you had a pine siskin last count on your feeder. And it was the only one that was seen in the whole count. Oh, okay. There you go. Well, not this year. Goldfinches, lesser and American, yes. Sometimes we see Lawrence's goldfinches, but that's not on the printed list, but I don't think we saw those, any Lawrence's goldfinches on the count yesterday, anyway. Lark sparrow, there's a photo of a lark sparrow, very ornate facial pattern on those, cool birds. And fox sparrows, yes. Dark-eyed juncos, of course. Now we wouldn't count this even if we did see the slate-colored. It's like one of the groups of dark-eyed juncos, a slate-colored group, but we often pick up a few of those, but I haven't heard of any reports of them this year. There's several different groups that have geographically distinct kind of appearances that are all part of the dark-eyed junco group, so, or species, but didn't see any slate colors. We did have a few white-throated sparrows. I think Eric actually had one in his backyard, didn't he? There you go.
10 days. Or so.
Easy birding right there. Tick it off, white-throated sparrows.
Another, I saw, you had two.
Okay, other lists
I
had,
think they might be increasing.
Okay, might have increase in the white-throated sparrows. That's good. Um, White crowned, another zona trichia. And the golden crown, another zona trichia. And bell sparrow is another one. Bells used to be sage sparrow, that was split. And often, well, not often, but every once in a while, we'll see them up on the ridge, up on Cuesta Ridge. But I don't think that any we're seeing this time around, so no on the bells. Savannah sparrows, yes, you see those in the marsh. In fact, there's a subspecies of Savannah sparrow called the large-billed Savannah sparrow. And one of those was picked up by Kevin over at the State Park Marina Boardwalk. And so it's always nice to see those. They're kind of a small population that's, I think it's mostly centered south of us. But every once in a while we'll get some individuals up. They have a big, large bill. That's, if you see that, you'll say, oh, that's a large-billed Savannah sparrow. So that's the group. Song sparrow. Yes, Lincoln's. Yep. And swamp sparrows. Here's a picture of a swamp sparrow off to the side there. And we picked up, I think, a few of those actually. We don't always get them every count, but we got swamp sparrow this time around. They can be kind of elusive and a little secretive. Caltohes, yes. Rufous ground sparrows, yep. And spotted towhees, yes. We're working our way up to 172 so far. Any other count, 172 would be like, yeah, 172, because that's a big number for like one of these count circles. But we're like, let's go, let's keep going. All right, Western meadowlark, yep. Red-winged blackbird, of course. And Cal Poly group got tricolored blackbird, I think. Yeah, that's a bird that's kind of imperiled in certain ways. And there's directed studies of the tricolored blackbirds to get a good sense of their populations. So here off to the right, you can see they have that whitish epaulet. Excuse me?
It was on Turry Road.
Tricolored?
Yeah.
Oh, also? Okay.
I don't know.
Greg must have got that. He did the other part of Turry. He did the west part. I did the east part. Greg Smith. Yeah. Another icon of local birding, by the way. Okay, so tricolored, yep. And brown-headed cowbird, yep. Brewers, blackbird, of course, and the great-tailed grackles. That's another species that kind of over the last couple decades started becoming more common here in San Luis County. And Costco parking lot was a great spot. They apparently like French fries. So, great-tailed grackle. You could stake out at Costco. All right, into the warblers. Orange crown warbler, yes, of course. And common yellowthroat, of course. And the yellow rump warbler, on the lists, if you see them carefully and you can differentiate between the myrtles and Audubon types, then we mark those down. But if you just hear a chip call and it's a yellow rump, we just put it down as a straight yellow rump. So that's why we have form ? And we just go through those. Townsend's warbler, yep. Hermit would be kind of rare, and I don't think there are any hermit warblers seen on the count. And then Wilson's also, even though it's very abundant and it breeds here in the summertime, spring, summer, most of the population migrates south in the winter. And there's a few little pockets where the Wilsons are hanging out and little riparian areas. So we were able to pick out a few of the Wilson's warblers this time around, which is good, a good get. We don't always pick up Wilsons. So that on our checklist we'll add, and then Western tanager. I looked over one checklist that said they maybe heard a Western tanager, but didn't see it. So that might be a suspect. We need a little bit more verification on that since it isn't fairly unusual this time of year. We needed like a photograph or like a good description of the bird, but just going on the call alone, probably not enough to count it, but there might be some around. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our checklist, field checklist, but of course, we have additional species that we're seeing during the count. And-
Off that, this is
Mhm.
running through above last year's count.
It-
Wasn't last year's count 101?
Okay,
That's what I
you say so, okay, well then, it must be so. Yeah, and that last year was when it was like really raining and windy, and so that's one reason that the count was low last year. So, okay, our normal count, I'm gonna say normal over the years, if you get like a 10-year average, is probably in the, I think it's in the low to mid 190s is our average over long term. Yeah, so we're getting up there. Okay, so now we go to the additional species. This might be where I need my glasses. And Steve and Eric, if I think maybe if you could like kind of maybe kick this off and let me know some of the more unusual or the rare species that we're seeing in your sector. Steve, do you have any but just what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna put the since it's hard to type with one hand, I'm just gonna put the like abbreviation for the species. So what were some of the rare species that showed up? Anybody? You guys had a black and white warbler? Okay. All right, and I think there was one at Meadow Park as well, two. Two black and white warblers, which it's an eastern warbler and it's rare. So black and white warbler. All right, and I'm gonna put that in and I'm gonna put an X next to it. All right. Okay, hang on here. A least bittern at Laguna Lake. Tori and his group saw one there. So LEBI. These are the 4-letter banding codes they call it for different species of birds. And they don't always make total sense, but like a black and white warbler, it's not, well, it's use the first letter of each word in that 4-letter or 4-word name. So BAWW is that. So least bittern, that's a very unusual bird, and there's been at least a couple of them around in Laguna Lake. And last year was the first time that we ever had them on the count itself. And so that's cool. And we have them again this year too. See, least bittern. Okay, so black and white warbler. I have a cheat sheet here. What else? You didn't have any in your area? We have the count circle divided into 5 areas for simplicity and kind of spreading out the groups and the leaders. We have the mountain, kind of the mountain Cal Poly section, and then we have more of the San Luis Obispo section. Then we have like the Los Osos Valley area, and then the Irish Hills is 4th, and then around Morro Bay would be our fifth area. So, well, let's see. How about you had a possible yellow-belly sapsucker? Okay,
Probably.
a probable yellow-belly sapsucker that Steve located in a pepper tree on Pepper Street.
Yeah.
What are the chances?
Checking, I did not get a photo of it. Pretty brief.
No, don't have a photo, but we had good looks at, or fairly good looks at it. And it's a juvenile bird, so it doesn't have the real bold facial pattern of an adult or the bright yellow belly that you'd expect of a yellow-bellied sapsucker. But the juvenile, kind of an overall like a brownish, it has some streaks on the back, whitish on the back.
Some of the facial markings are coming in, but they had no color yet.
Okay, facial markings coming in, no color yet, so, but that's a classic birder's bird, isn't it? A yellow-bellied sapsucker, you know, it's like, what are you looking at? Okay.
Clay colored sparrow.
Oh, okay, that was kind of unexpected. Clay-colored sparrow. Something we might expect to see mostly in the fall during migration, but one was seen here. So great. You guys got that at Laguna, I believe? Okay, down at Perfumo Creek. It's a really productive area down there at the creek, where Perfumo Creek leads into Laguna Lake. There's a vacant lot there that's owned by the city, I believe. And it's a great vantage point to look out into the lake. There's reeds out there. There's certain water levels. There's like mud flats. And it's a great spot for waterfowl out there too. So if you turn right at Laguna Middle School at that traffic light, go all the way down and just park and walk out, and you can look at the Laguna Lake. So that's a great spot. Clay-colored sparrow. And let's see what else. I don't even think I had that down here, did I? Okay, great. CC sparrow. And what else on our additional species? I have okay, king eider. Let's do that. Okay, we'll just start working. That was like one of the last species that was seen or yesterday. And it's a rare duck, an eider, which is typical of northern climates. And this one particular female showed up months ago, and it was all molting and it couldn't really fly. I actually thought it was gone, but then we got this report from our group that walked the sandspit, and they saw it out in the surf zone with a bunch of surf scoters. So king eider on our Christmas bird count, that's a first. All right, so K-I-E-I-O, no, that would be E-I-O. King eider, K-I-E-I. All right, and so as long as we're just kind of randomly doing this, we also had, speaking of warblers, we had a Tennessee warbler over at the Morro Bay State Park campground. All right, Tennessee warbler, and that's been there for a few weeks now, an overwintering bird. Okay, Tennessee warbler and yellow warbler, which are common, of course, here in the summertime and other, spring, summer, yellow warblers, but there was one over by Laguna Middle School. And now that is called the northern yellow warbler. There's another type of warbler it's called the mangrove yellow warbler. So if you go down in the tropics, you'll see a yellow warbler with like a rusty head to it. And that was formerly considered just a variety of the yellow warbler, but they last year split it into two species. So now we have the northern yellow warbler. Okay. And let's see what else.
Steve just reminded me.
Yes.
We had a rose-breasted grosbeak.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That was picked up in Sea Canyon
Yeah.
by Bill
We-
off Pippin Lane up there. I don't know whether there's one of the apple orchards up there that was at, but if you want to see a nice rose-breasted grosbeak, that's the place to go. So RB GR, rose-breasted grosbeak. Okay, and let's see where else we at. Rose-breasted grosbeak, and we got the king eider. Oh, scoters. We had a black scoter offshore. There was a pair that Reef saw and took a photo. It's like the male and female, which is really quite cool. So black scoter, BLSC. Okay. Where are we at now? 191. Okay, we're getting up there. Yay. King Hyder. And Tori, you said that you saw a Costas hummingbird at Laguna Middle School. Nice. That's unexpected. A little bit more of a deserty kind of species that we see every once in a while, but they're rare here. So Costas hummingbird is a really good one for the count. Costas and a little star of the State Park Marina over there, long-tailed duck. Right? If you have a chance, go over to the State Park Marina by the campground and look in where the boats are. And here's a picture of one right here. Of course, how could we miss that? I put a picture of one right there. This one doesn't have a long tail because it's an immature bird. And this photograph looks kind of like the bird that is presently over at the State Park Marina. So we typically get, one or two of them along the coast somewhere in the wintertime, but to have one like where you can park and take 10 steps and look at it is really cool. So if you have the chance, go over and check that out. The LTDU. Okay, X. All right. Here's one that it's not on the list because it's rare in the wintertime, but it's common in the summertime, and it actually breeds here. Pigeon guillemot. And often by this time of the year, they've fledged and moved out into the North Pacific Ocean, left their breeding grounds behind. But the pigus, every once in a while, you see one of those, and they're often juveniles that we see. And those were picked up on our offshore trip. So pigeon guillemot, also over around the marina, actually the Tidelands Park in Morro Bay, there's been a yellow-crowned night heron, not the black-crowned night heron, but a juvenile yellow-crowned night heron, which is more of a southern distributed night heron. It's a juvenile. And I went over early and made sure that we got that in H. And I was a little concerned because it's right near the boat launch ramp, and it was such a nice day yesterday that there were a lot of fishermen. They're all backing their boats up and yelling at each other. And, in this tree where these night herons roost, it's like right next to the boat ramp there, literally. And it's like, I don't know if it's going to be here or not. But I got there and it stopped, and I turned around. There it was about 6 feet from me, just like perched up on the branch. So that's great. Pretty cool. They've only in the last few years have they actually shown up in the county here. So they're kind of expanding a little bit to the north as well. Okay, yellow-crowned night heron. Another bird that Reef picked up offshore, which is very unusual, and he has a very good description of it, and he's an excellent seabirder. And it is a Manx shearwater, which is actually mostly, you'd see that in the Atlantic Ocean. But in the Pacific here, we do get Manx shearwaters showing up from time to time. And
I'm confused, though.
Mhm.
Talk about the bird that were out of council.
yeah, it's kind of a fuzzy border out there. Yeah, but it was in for our purposes.
Yeah, I like.
Yeah. Birds fly, the open ocean out there, it's a very uniform habitat, right? And so, we give a little leeway for birds that are like flying back and forth.
Does it work sort of like the art birds, where if you can see it from?
Yeah, kinda, not exactly. Technically, if it's inside, it's gotta be inside the circle, if you're, the rules according to Hoyle, for the Christmas bird count. But we know certain areas that we count that are just slightly outside this, like maybe a, stone's throw that's outside, but anyway, it's all good. Yeah. Tom's not here. Oh, he might be watching at some point though. Okay, but we're gonna put Manx shearwater down here. Oh, look at that. Mash, it's the mash bird. Okay, anything else that you can think of? I think that's all I have on my list right here. Look, we're at 196. Check it out. We did have short ear owls. Yeah. Oh,
I think on the same thing with the, make sure it's northern full.
197. There we go. With the what? Oh, yeah, Northern Fulmar. That was another one.
Put it on the regular.
I think that was on the regular list. Yeah. Yeah, I think it was on the regular list. Yeah.
Karen Perry have Harris Sparrow on the count day?
It wasn't on count day, so that's why we're gonna count it on the count week. Thank you. That was a cool species, and here it is. There's a picture of a Harris's sparrow there. That's another Zonotrichia related to the white crown, golden crown sparrows, and pretty rare here. It's more of a Midwestern kind of a bird, and really showy. And Karen Perry, for some reason, her yard is very attractive to birds, and so is she attracted to birds, and so the two meet, and she gets a lot of good yard species. So Harris's sparrow, we'll add that to our list and report it to Audubon as a count week species. And Karen also had earlier in the week an orchard oriole, an or, right? Orchard oriole, which is rare this time of year. It's really rare around here, anytime. Yeah, and an orchard oriole. And now, thanks to Judy, we can add a Bullock's oriole to our count week. Yeah. Judy's been following a bird that's been visiting her back here. What has it been going for, persimmons or what? Persimmons in the bird bath. Okay, so that's attracted to Bullock's oriole. Of course, Bullock's orioles in general migrate to the south in the wintertime into more warmer climes. So that would be another species that we would add to our count week list. And black-headed grosbeak was reported also from El Chorro Regional Park. And Dale Ball, she picked that up the day before yesterday, and the Dean Thompson's group tried their best to refine it, but to no avail. So we can still add it to our week list, BHGR. Oh yeah, thank you. The WADA. Wandering tattler, yeah, didn't pick it up on count day. We've got count week species. So, I mean, any of these were possible to have seen on the actual count day. So, I mean, I shouldn't put X by them because it's count week. Thank you for letting me know. We don't count those because it's count week. We're interested in the count day. Oh, yeah, I know yours like 200, just that close. And then, oh, sorry about that. I looked up at the number and I go, we're over 200. Yeah. No, that's not the way the rules work.
Hey, what Nate says on the spreadsheet.
Oh, okay.
Looking at the photos.
Yeah, that's more of kind of a field, intermediate checklist thing for following it. Yeah. And so, I mentioned that Arctic loon possibility. If we do get some good photographs of that particular bird and it turns out to be an Arctic loon, which would be great, we could add that to our list as well for the count. So in any case,
but the descriptions alone now wouldn't be sufficient.
Probably not. No, we need to get some good photographs of the bird. Yeah. So here's the sparrow wandering tattler. Okay, well, here we are as the 125th Audubon count and our 72nd Morro Coast Audubon. I'm glad you could all be here in person, and thank you for coming. And hopefully you all come back again next year. Thanks.